So here we are at the annual gathering of Britain's main party of the centre-left, and what with global markets in freefall, it could be quite a week. Not in there, out there. Just to liven things up slightly, we're reaching into our little pop cultural toolbox, as well as our passes. Last year, when Ed Miliband was sworn in as leader, it happened on the hallowed turf where Bob Dylan went electric. This year, the Labour Party's meeting in the city that gave the world the titanic cultural force that bequeathed humanity a song for every occasion. What sort of a year has Ed Miliband had?
Good one, because he's opened up debate within the party for the first time, coming out of 13 years of Labour government.
Brilliant. He's the luckiest leader we've ever had.
How so?
Well, look at the idiots in government. If we can't beat them, we'll beat nobody.
He just doesn't convince. I don't think he's overly convincing. I think the problem we've got at the moment is that we're in opposition and the job is to convince people that you can actually get back into power.
It's better to go slowly and make good progress than to go quickly and fall flat on your face.
This time a year ago, the conference was in a sort of state of shock that Ed had won and not David. What Ed has managed to do is to bring people together. One of the really great things now, John, is that there isn't the briefing.
His acceptance speech when he won the leadership 12 months ago, Ed effectively announced the end of New Labour, said that our slavish adherence to the neoliberal market philosophy was wrong, apologised for the Iraq war. It was quite a watershed speech. Now, he has to build on that.
I wonder whether we are in the death throes of what some people call neoliberalism. In other words, we can start to talk about things like the limits of markets and the need for greater equality in a way that the Labour Party, while it was in office, very rarely did.
Yes, I think we are, if that is your thesis. We're seeing an emerging sort of rhetoric from him about challenging the vested interests. There's families in the suburbs, they're getting their train fares hiked up. They're getting their energy prices hiked up. Harder rhetoric on the bankers, which is long overdue. The Rupert Murdoch stuff about an overburdensome sort of media oligarch sort of subverting the system, he's sort of much more assertive in those areas.
We're a rich country, one of the richest in the world. If poor countries can live better, it's the sharing out of the wealth.
You're an optimistic socialist, aren't you, sir?
Very, very.
Not many of you left.
Oh, we're a growing band.
Getting rid of Clause 4 was a mistake.
For you?
Yes.
Wow, I haven't many. You're a young person who thinks the Labour Party should still believe in to secure for the workers by hand or by brain the full fruits of their industry.
I think that the language. I think that we shouldn't couch it in the kind of traditional Marxist or socialist language. I think we need to have those values, but for a new age. I think that what New Labour did was they changed the values and the way of putting them across.
I don't think we've ever operated a free market. We were actually, if I can put it like this, proportionately interventionist. Because
but it's unquestionable, isn't it, that Labour was too easy on the banks, for example. Everybody now accepts.
Yes, we certainly accept. This is with hindsight, John.
I was saying it at the time.
Right. You're a man of great foresight, and we should have listened more to what you had to say.
I was being condemned as a silly left-winger.
Well, that's a great pity.
Would you be advising moving away from the Darling Plan somewhat?
Yeah, I never thought that deficit reduction that quickly was a good idea. I represent a constituency, Wigan, where the public sector is enormously important, not just to people, but actually to the private sector there as well. So you can't make huge cuts and not see a collapse of business across the area.
So even the Darling Plan, cutting it in half in 4 years, you'd have worried about?
I think you have to be cautious about it, particularly in areas like mine.
If you were in office, you would be sticking to the plan to halve the deficit in the lifetime of a parliament?
Yes. You've got to look at the situation now. As Keynes said, if the facts change, you change your mind. You don't bury your head deeper in the sand.
Is the party still pledged to the Darling Plan, as you understand it? I'm never entirely clear, or I'm not now.
Our view remains that Alistair's judgment was right. Halving over 4 years would have been the right way to do it. Obviously, we're doing something.
Does that mean you should
different.
be being slightly more specific about the cuts you would be making were you in office?
Well, it's an academic exercise.
The Darling Plan is in place. but it is in a way overwritten by an argument about jobs, investment, in order to promote growth. I mean, that is what our economy desperately needs, to promote growth by two means. Temporary cut in VAT, which last time we did it saw retail sales increase, but a long-term commitment to rebalancing the economy away from the same level of dependence
Right, this sounds like
on
the
financial
darling
services.
Plan B, almost.
I think what's needed at the moment is a much better internationally coordinated approach to the crisis.
What Gordon Brown did on the G20 in 2009 is now being seen for the value it was, putting the whole world together and going forward as one with a common set of policies based around growth and credibility and confidence in the world.
He's had a bad rap, really.
Oh, I do. I think he'll be revalued. That's not popular to say either. His premiership will certainly be revalued in given time. It may take a long time, I don't know. But yeah, he was given a terrible press, much worse than he deserved. And when you look back at what he did around the G20 time in 2009, it's a remarkable effort.
Remember the 30th, big day of action. Your union, I think I'm right in saying, is balloting its members about
Yes.
strike action.
Yep.
What do you think that will do to the Labour Party? I mean, it could put Ed Miliband in a difficult position.
Well, that's up to Ed. Ed's made it clear at the moment that he doesn't agree with strikes while negotiations are continuing. Well, when the negotiations finish, he's going to have to make his judgments as to whose side he's on.
So if negotiations break down or don't come to a satisfactory conclusion and the unions go out on strike, you will be in support of them, will
I will,
you?
yeah.
On a picket line?
Possibly. I haven't been invited, but if there's a picket line in my constituency, I would certainly try and go. This isn't just destroying the public sector, this is destroying the whole public service ethos in this country, and once we lose that, we're never going to get it back.
What does the phone hacking scandal mean for the politics of the Labour Party?
I'd take it onto psychology a little bit more. The one thing that hasn't properly been articulated yet is the overthrow of the sort of Murdoch subconscious. I went through this myself in my early years. You know, you kind of almost subconsciously moderate your political thinking because you're worried about how this is going to be reflected in the press, you know, and New Labour obsessed with image, and, you know, for much of that time that was what is going to be the splash in the sun. Well, you know, two fingers to the sun. I don't care what they say anymore, and I hope other politicians are the same. At its most rudimentary level, we need a debate about who owns the media and, you know, how we regulate it. But I think it also creates a wider debate about, you know, what can Labour achieve without Rupert Murdoch on his back?
You up for a conversation about other, perhaps slightly more creative forms of taxation? Wealth taxation, for example?
Well, I think we need to be open-minded, which is why we're having this policy review. And I think we need to consider all options when we're, looking into what we will put forward in 2015.
When Labour has fallen from power in the past, it's been in opposition for quite a while. 13 years in the 50s, 18 years under the last Tory government. Will it happen again?
No, it won't happen again, because I think we've studied and learned a lot of the lessons about why Labour falls into opposition for a long time. The minute you give up on getting back into government and simply behave like an opposition, opposing everything that the government of the day is doing, you begin to condemn yourself. Behave responsibly, don't turn in on yourselves, keep talking to people out in the country who barely ever think about politics, they think about managing their own lives day by day. Stay united.
Fair play to the Labour Party. It doesn't feel like it's wallowing in defeat or doing what it has often done when it's been plunged into opposition, which is tearing itself apart factionally. But I'm still missing a sense of urgency. It's very steady as she goes. Let's see what the policy review comes up with. In the midst of an unprecedented economic crisis and a vicious programme of austerity from the government, it still feels to me like this party's behaving as if it's got all the time in the world. And people out there haven't.
I mean, you're right in this. Labour Party conference becomes its own bubble, sort of hermetically sealed by the security screening. I think in some ways, conference needs to change. We say every year, is this a formula that can continue? But we are here specifically to look at the longer term. We're, as you say, we are here specifically almost on a kind of political retreat from the normal, sort of pressures
the real
of
world
everyday.
should be intruded.
I
The
know
real
when
world.
you're here, you feel you're at the centre of the world, but I do think that out there in the privacy of people's homes, Labour is not yet relevant.